Hello, this is Samori Swaggart, and today we're doing a very brief book review for our recommended reading section of Swarthy and Swank. Today we're going to dive into the book Dapper Dan Made in Harlem, a Memoir by Daniel R. Day. Now, Daniel R. Day is the man that we affectionately known as Dapper Dan. I chose to seek out this book and read it because I grew up in New York City. And in New York City, if you were growing up anywhere from the 70s on up, and if you were around the time when Dapper Dan was young, when you talking about the 50s and 60s, this he has a track record and a trail of his life, and he has so many stories. He's dabbled in so many different worlds. And it's a very interesting story. So, why else did I get this? I felt like I need to know more information. I learned about Dapper Dan through all of the hip hop music, um, and then just street tales. You would hear people name drop Dapper Dan in their hip hop songs, and then you also come to find out a lot of um, your favorite hip hop artists, especially in the 80s and 90s. You would come to know a lot of their album covers and some of their best stylish photos of themselves. They were actually designed and crafted. Those outfits were designed and crafted by the man himself, Dapper Dan. Um, from the Real Roxanne's Louis Vuitton outfit to outfits by LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane, KRS-One, uh, Eric B. and Rakim. So many hip hop stars and also underworld hustlers. Like you have Alpo Martinez, who's a Harlem drug kingpin. Um, from Mike Tyson. Dapper Dan designed so many trademarking outfits that just stood out boldly and captivated many in the urban city, the urban core. He had that flavor. And so he became legendary from that, right? But the book chronicles his rise to hood stardom until all the way right now in 2022, where this is legitimized fashion industry stardom, and he's getting all his props and accolades and kudos that should be allotted to him. But it's a very motivational, inspirational story. Growing up in Harlem, poor, with his mother and father. His mother was battling alcohol abuse. His dad was a workaholic. He had multiple brothers and sisters. He kind of got into drug addiction. Um, he was involved in the gambling underworld, where he learned how to master dice and so many other things in the gambling underworld, to getting into different schemes. And because I'm not going to reveal all of the tasty treats within the book, I want to leave some meat for you to taste and consume for yourself. But different schemes and scams and frauds and heists he got involved in, and in dodging drug addiction himself. Well, battling drug addiction, overcoming drug addiction, and mastering that. Um, the mingling and networking with some of Harlem's biggest underworld drug dealers, Nicky Barnes and Frank Lucas, their whole entourage, and having relationships with them, and then going overseas and having an overseas experience and see how that gave him a paradigm shift. And what you start seeing is he delved deep into spirituality and wanting to find more about the universe. What you also learn is that Dapper Dan is a tremendous reader. He had a craving for reading and knowledge and how systems operate from the basic unit of an operation in a business all the way up until the end to the greatest function. And that's how he kind of built a lot of his business and how he moved. He always need to know the nuts, screws, and bolts and how things work, and he'd study it for hours and days. And he applied that to various walks of life, whether legal or illegal, and combining that with the street hustle. So that desire to have knowledge and awareness and spirituality and a perspective greater and outside of oneself, complexed with street hustle, complex with wanting to go legit and be a entrepreneur in the fashion industry, and learning the nuts and bolts of that and mastering that craft while also being a small fish in a big industry of fashion and clothing merchandising. Um, Learning how to undercut the competition and have the whole neighborhood coming to your store. Finding out how he was blackballed by, well, I'm not going to tell you who he was blackballed by, but it's very interesting. And just seeing this man now in 2022, still alive, still kicking, doing well, and circling back and getting all the recognition from all these major fashion designers, Louis Vuitton, MCM and Fendi, and getting paid handsomely for this. It is a true story. I think if you are somebody that has that entrepreneurial spirit, and that go get it, that grind mentality, this is a very motivational and inspirational book. Inspirational book. And the other thing too is there's so many setbacks and obstacles that would have probably paralyzed most people's spirit. Um, he never there's so many times that he had setbacks and downfalls and failures, and he always bounced back. He was resilient um, with his goals and dreams. Never ever taking that fall, never taking that as a permanent place for him. I think that you should definitely take some time out, add this to your reading book list, and see how that may give you some perspective. That's what I think. So, Swarthy and Swank, signing out. Dapper Dan, Made in Harlem, a memoir by Daniel R. Day, also known as Dapper Dan.